Hello students, today we will discuss pituitary gland. So in pituitary gland, we will discuss its structure, hormones released from pituitary gland, all the control mechanism acting over the pituitary gland, which will include hypothalamic hormones, relation between pituitary and hypothalamus, and lastly endocrine axis. So to start, let's discuss about the structure. So, the pituitary gland is a small gland present within bony cavity at base of the brain. If we put one of our finger in between two eyes and another finger towards one ear, the imaginary point where these two lines intersect is the location of pituitary gland. That means one finger between the eyes, another finger towards one ear. The imaginary point where these two lines intersect at the base of the brain, that is the location of pituitary gland. Now the pituitary gland consists of two lobes, that is anterior lobe and posterior lobe. It's like this. This is anterior lobe and this is posterior lobe. So the two lobes only has a common location, that is the base of the brain. Otherwise, embryonically, structurally, functionally, in all the aspects, these two lobes are completely different. If we consider about anterior lobe, it is mainly composed of glandular epithelial tissue. And that is why this is known as adenohypophysis. Adeno means glandular, adenohypophysis. Hypophysis is another name of pituitary. Whereas the posterior lobe, it is composed of neural tissue. That is why it is known as neurohypophysis. Now along with the neural tissue, there are some supporting cells known as pituitary sites. Both of these lobes are connected with hypothalamus. But again, the way of connection is completely different. In case of posterior lobe, it is said that posterior lobe is actually an extension of hypothalamus. The hypothalamus and pituitary is connected with each other by a thin connecting stalk. Or it is said that posterior pituitary is actually the extension of hypothalamus. The posterior pituitary is connected with hypothalamus by neural means or neural way, whereas a unique vascular link is present between anterior pituitary and hypothalamus. So let's start our discussion with posterior pituitary. There are two posterior pituitary hormones. One is vasopressin and another is oxytocin. Though they are named as posterior pituitary hormone, but that is actually a misnomer, because from posterior pituitary only these two hormones are secreted. They are actually synthesized in the hypothalamus, or to be more specific, in the neurosecretory neurons which are present into specific areas of hypothalamus. Just draw a clear picture. So this is hypothalamus, okay, and this is posterior pituitary. As I have said, the two hormones, they are synthesized in the cell body of neurosecretory neurons of hypothalamus. In hypothalamus, there are two specific regions. Okay, in hypothalamus, there are two specific regions known as paraventricular and supraoptic nuclei. So, paraventricular and supraoptic nuclei. In both the nuclei, there are two types of neurosecretory neurons. Actually, the nuclei contains only the cell body. Okay. In both the nuclei, two types of cell bodies of two types of neurosecretory neurons are present. It's like this. So this is for oxytocin. Same type of neurons are also present in supraoptic also. And this is the cell body of the neurosecretory neuron which can secrete vasopressin. So, these two nuclei both contain two types of cell bodies of neurosecretory neuron, but a single neuron only can secrete one single type of hormone. Okay. Now, from this nuclei, the axon passes to the posterior pituitary via the connecting stalk, and the axon terminal is present at the posterior pituitary. In posterior pituitary, there is posterior pituitary capillary, which is a part of systemic circulation. So it will be like this. It's the arterial end, and this is the venular end. In between these two structures, there lies the capillary. There lies the capillary. Okay. So when proper stimulus is there, the hormones secrete within the blood of the capillary. So what happens? The oxytocin and vasopressin, both the hormones are synthesized in the cell bodies, and after synthesis, they are transported via the cytoplasm of the axon, and they are stored in the terminal area forming secretory vesicle. When proper stimulus is there, these hormones are released within the circulation. Like this, and then they are distributed throughout the body. Okay, this is the arterial end, this is the venular end. When proper stimulation comes, there is release of these hormones into the circulation, and then they are distributed throughout the body. So we can say that though they are known as posterior pituitary hormone, but they only release from the posterior pituitary, whereas they are synthesized in the cell bodies of neurosecretory neurons which are present in paraventricular and supraoptic nuclei. So the first hormone is vasopressin. What is the main function of vasopressin? It is involved in conservation of water during urine formation that occurs in the kidney nephron, and it also plays a minor effect as it causes arteriolar smooth muscle contraction and thereby exert a pressure effect. So it has antidiuretic effect, through which it causes resorption of water in kidney tubule, and it has one pressure effect, through which it causes contraction of vascular smooth muscle. Though this role is minor, and that is why they play only a minor role in maintaining the body's blood pressure. but this effect is quite prominent, and it is the major hormone which is responsible for maintaining water balance of our body. So we have to know it in detail in our renal section. Now what are the receptors through which or the input comes from where and initiate the secretion of vasopressin? So the input comes from plasma osmoreceptor, as well as atrial volume receptor. Again, this plasma osmoreceptor plays the major role. Whenever body is deprived of water, the plasma osmolarity increases, and that will stimulate this receptor. Again, when body is deprived of water, there is low volume of ECS, and that will stimulate the atrial volume receptor. When stimulated, the input goes there and causes increased secretion of vasopressin. Now, oxytocin. The main action of oxytocin is it promotes uterine smooth muscle contraction and thereby facilitate the expulsion of fetus. So, it enhances uterine smooth muscle contraction during labor or during childbirth. And the second function is that it's responsible for ejection of milk during breastfeeding. Okay, both this action is reflex mediated. Both of these actions, they are reflex mediated. The reflex which originated from the birth canal during the childbirth, or which is triggered when the infant starts suckling. Okay. Other than these two main functions, the oxytocin is also involved in maintaining some special kind of behavior, like the emotional bond present between mother and child. That is why it is also known as cuddle chemical. Or love hormone. We will know about it in detail in our reproductive physiology as well as later in classes of obs and gynecology. Now coming to anterior pituitary hormones. From our general endocrinology, we know that the anterior pituitary can secrete 6 different types of hormones. Actually, in anterior pituitary, there are 5 specific areas from where 6 different types of hormones are released. What are the areas? These are somatotrope, thyrotrope, corticotrope, gonadotrope, and lactotrope. When somatotrope is stimulated, the hormone release is growth hormone. When thyrotrope is stimulated, it secretes TSH or thyroid stimulating hormone. When corticotrope is stimulated, there is secretion of ACTH or adrenocorticotropic hormone. When gonadotrope is stimulated, there is secretion of 2 hormones, FSH or follicle stimulating hormone and LH, that is luteinizing hormone. And when lactotrope is stimulated, there is secretion of prolactin. Okay. Now all these hormones are involved in multiple functions in our body, but at present we will discuss only the main function or the brief function, because all the hormones will be taught in detail in later classes. Okay, so first come GH or growth hormone. Growth hormone, when act on liver, secrete another chemical known as insulin-like growth factor 1. When IGF-1 acts upon soft tissue and bone, it will causes growth of body. Growth of body. Then comes TSH. TSH will act on thyroid gland, and there is release of T3 and T4. These are thyroid hormones. It's involved in multiple functions like metabolic one, calorigenic function, etc. When ACTH acts upon adrenal cortex, there is occurs secretion of cortisol. Cortisol is again involved in multiple action, including metabolic one. Now coming to FSH or follicle stimulating hormone. FSH, this hormone is mainly involved in production of gamete, which is sperm in case of male and which is ova in case of female. Other than this non-endocrine function, it also involved in secreting or it promotes secretion of estrogen. Okay, and LH, that is luteinizing hormone. That this causes the main function of LH is to secrete or initiate secretion of testosterone in case of male and production of estrogen and progesterone in case of female. So, sex hormone secretion. LH plays an important part in ovulation and it is also responsible for luteinization. We will know about it in detail in our reproductive class. Then comes prolactin. It's related with breast development as well as secretion of milk. Okay, so these are the primary function of this kind of hormones. Now coming to ACTH, ACTH is actually a part of a precursor molecule known as POMC or pro-opiomelanocortin. It splits in a way and form alpha MSH, endorphin and ACTH. Whereas alpha MSH is mainly involved with tannin, endorphin causes suppression of pain and ACTH is responsible for secretion of cortisol. POMC is actually present in multiple organs, but depending upon the enzyme present in that very particular organ, it splits and form multiple products. Here it is ACTH. So we can see that the anterior pituitary causes the secretion of 6 different types of hormones. Among them, other than prolactin, all the hormones exert their function by secreting another hormone, and that is why they are known as tropic hormone. Only the prolactin, this is not a tropic hormone, and this GH and prolactin exert their activity via JAK-STAT pathway, whereas all other hormones exert their activity by CEMP mediated second messenger pathway. Anterior pituitary is responsible for secretion of hormones from target gland. But there are some regulatory mechanisms for anterior pituitary itself. Okay. And anterior pituitary is mainly regulated chemically, either by target gland hormone, that is via negative feedback pathway, or it is regulated by hypothalamus. Hypothalamus itself can secrete multiple hormones which has an effect over anterior pituitary or the different region of anterior pituitary. Okay, so these are the areas of anterior pituitary. Now hypothalamus can secrete 7 hormones which has direct effect on different areas of anterior pituitary. So first consider about GH. For GH, hypothalamus can secrete growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone inhibiting hormone. Growth hormone releasing hormone stimulate somatotroph and increases the production of GH. Whereas IH or growth hormone inhibiting hormone, also known as somatostatin, they inhibit somatotroph. They also inhibit hydrotroph. Next, TRH or thyrotropin releasing hormone. It will stimulate thyrotroph and thereby promote the secretion of TSH. Then there is CRH or corticotropin releasing hormone, which again can stimulate corticotroph. Then there is GnRH or gonadotropin releasing hormone, that will stimulate gonadotroph and promote the secretion of FSH and LH. And there is prolactin releasing peptide and prolactin inhibiting hormone or dopamine. As the name implies, the pro-hormone releasing peptide stimulate the lactotroph and prolactin, and dopamine causes inhibition of lactotroph. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hormones which actually can control the anterior pituitary and thereby regulate the secretion of anterior pituitary hormone. So we can say that the hypothalamic hormones are hormone 1, then anterior pituitary hormones are hormone 2, and ultimately the target gland hormones are hormone 3. So these 3 types of hormones are engaged in a hierarchy, and that is known as endocrine axis. Depending upon the concentration of these hypothalamic hormones in blood, all the concentration of all the hormones are regulated. So here we can see that there is a close relationship between anterior pituitary and hypothalamus. And previously we have said that a unique vascular link is present between anterior pituitary and hypothalamus. That vascular structure is known as hypophyseal portal system. Why it is unique, or what's the difference from the general circulation? In general circulation, what happens? From heart, the artery goes and forms capillary. From capillary, venar cells start and that ends into heart. This way. And between heart and lung, pulmonary circulation exists. That much we all know. So what's its specialty? Here, the venous end or the veins, instead of going to heart, form another capillary network. So heart, artery, capillary vein, and again heart. Okay. So in this part, heart lung is bypassed, and that is the specialty. So it is like this. The capillary 1, it is present in the hypothalamus, and capillary 2, it is present in the pituitary. How come? So this is the arterial array. venular end. Capillary network is present within it. Like this. Another capillary system or capillary tube that is present in the anterior pituitary. And ultimately this is done. So what happens? The neurosecretory neurons of hypothalamus ends here. So in the neurosecretory neuron, in the cell body, there is formation of hypothalamic hormones and they are present in the secretory vesicle at the axon terminal, which terminates in the capillary of hypothalamus. When proper stimulation is there, the hypothalamic hormones are released into the capillaries of hypothalamus. Okay, and then they are carried directly to the anterior pituitary capillary. In anterior pituitary capillary, they are released from the blood and present in anterior pituitary, where it will stimulate a particular organ, say it may be somatotrope. When it stimulates somatotrope or thyrotrope, the anterior pituitary hormone will be released. The anterior pituitary hormone will be released. And now they are released into the blood of pituitary capillary and then they will be distributed throughout body. So what happens? From neurosecretory neuron, the hypothalamic hormones are synthesized and released into the capillary present into the hypothalamus. Through the musculature, these hypothalamic hormones are carried directly to the pituitary. In pituitary, they stimulate the particular part of anterior pituitary. It may be somatotrope, it may be thyrotrope, it may be tonicotrope, and there occurs release of anterior pituitary hormone. Then they are mixed with the capillary blood and ultimately distributed throughout the body via vein. Okay. So what is the utility of this system, or what is the utility of this portal system? If the portal system is not there, so there will be general circulation or systemic circulation. What happens then? From this capillary 1, this is capillary 2. Okay. From this capillary 1, then the blood should go to heart, then again heart and lung. From this capillary via vein, the blood will enter into the heart, from there lung, and then again via arterial end, it will reach to capillary 2. So this whole part is avoided in this portal system. So what are the benefits? The benefit is that as the hypothalamic hormones are present directly into the anterior pituitary, so that thing is less time consuming. Moreover, as all the hormones are presented to the anterior pituitary, they are presented in higher concentration. If between these two capillary systems there is heart and lung, then the higher concentration of hypothalamic hormones are presented into the heart, then lung, and it will be getting diluted with the systemic circulation. And when it ultimately reaches to the anterior pituitary, the concentration will be much low, and that will affect the concentration of secreted anterior pituitary hormone too. So the benefit is that, or the benefit of this system is that it's less time taking and the hormones are presented in higher concentration. So this is the benefit of this portal system. So far we have discussed that the hypothalamic or hypothalamus can stimulate anterior pituitary most of the time, but they have also two inhibitory hormones, and anterior pituitary can stimulate target gland. So there should be some regulatory mechanism for hypothalamus too. That mechanism is either chemical or neural. The chemical mediated regulation is mainly driven by hormones or the negative feedback of target gland hormone. From our general section, we have already know that anterior pituitary hormone is inhibited by target gland hormone. The target gland hormone also has a negative feedback effect over hypothalamus. So that is the chemical control mechanism. What about neural control mechanism? The detail of it is still unknown, but it is established that hypothalamus is connected with multiple areas of brain, like limbic system. So they are influenced by emotion. This is connected with limbic system. So hypothalamic hormone secretion is regulated by emotion. That is often seen in case of menstrual cycle. Most of the women faces some emotional disturbance that will lead to irregularity in menstrual cycle following fluctuation of estrogen-progesterone ratio. Other than this, environmental factor can also play a role in hypothalamic regulation, just like stress. Stress causes increased secretion of CRH or corticotropin releasing hormone, and thereby the secretion of cortisol, and cortisol can act against stress. So from this discussion we can say that the neural influence and the chemical influence, neural factor or chemical factor, can influence the neurosecretory neuron of hypothalamus. Okay, from hypothalamus, hormone 1 released. Hormone 1 released. Hormone 1 when act over anterior pituitary. Hormone 2 released. Hormone 2 when act over target gland. Hormone 3 released. Hormone 3 when act over target cell. The desired action or desired function starts. So this hormone 1, hormone 2 and hormone 3, they form a hierarchy that is known as endocrine axis. Now again, hormone 2 secretion and hormone 1 secretion is controlled by hormone 3. Hormone 3 maintains its concentration within a narrow range, and the set point is fixed by some other regulatory mechanism. The very common regulatory mechanism is circadian rhythm. Okay, so the concentration of hormone 3 is prefixed within a narrow range. When the hormone level or when the hormone 3 concentration reaches beyond that, it starts to give a negative feedback effect. So when hormone 3 level rises very much, it inhibits anterior pituitary and it inhibits the neurosecretory neuron of hypothalamus and thereby control its own secretion. When anterior pituitary secretion and hypothalamic secretion is inhibited, then automatically hormone 3 secretion is also inhibited, and that is the negative feedback system. So hormone 3, or the concentration of hormone 3 is maintained within a narrow range, which is fixed by multiple mechanisms. One of them is circadian rhythm. That means the set point for hormone 3 is different in or depending upon the time of the day. So circadian rhythm is an important mechanism which will fix the narrow range of hormone 3 for that particular time of the day. There are also other mechanisms which can set the hormone 3 concentration. Now just replace this hormone 1, hormone 2 and hormone 3 with some real hormone. Just like CRH, ACTH and cortisol. So this secretion occurs under stress. In stressful condition, other than this circadian rhythm, there is another reflex or known as neuroendocrine reflex, which will take upper hand, because in this stressful situation, body needs a rapid surge of cortisol to combat stress. So not the circadian rhythm, but here the neuroendocrine reflex will take upper hand, and it will set the set point for cortisol at much higher level. Okay, so now the system will operate at much higher set point of cortisol, and the negative feedback system will only start when the hormonal concentration or when the cortisol concentration rises beyond that set point. Okay, so the cortisol level or concentration of the hormone 3 is not a fixed one, beyond which the negative feedback system will start to operate. It changes depending upon the time of the day, it changes depending upon the environmental condition or body need. Okay, so this one is not a fixed range, it changes depending upon multiple factors, and which is regulated by multiple mechanisms like circadian rhythm, neuroendocrine reflex, etc. These reflexes set the cortisol range upon which the negative feedback system starts to operate. Okay, I hope you understand. So this is all about the pituitary gland. In our next class, we will start growth hormone. I will upload the PowerPoint presentation separately. Thank you.